This is the Bethune-Cookman University Wildcat News Feed on Sirius XM, radio channel 142. HBCU, broadcasting from the Wildcat Lab in Daytona Beach, Florida. WELE 1380, The Cat. It's time to hear the good news from BCU.
Good afternoon and welcome to the BCU Wildcat Newsfeed, also known as #Talk Tuesday, the place where we get the real, raw, and relevant facts about what's going down on the campus of Bethune-Cookman University and HBCUs all around the world. I am your host, Franshawn Reed Barnes, and you are listening to WELE 1380 The Cat. Today we will be discussing the alleged $10,000 raise in tuition at Bethune-Cookman University. Can somebody say #who said that? Today I have with me a very special guest to help us get to the bottom of this issue. Associate Vice President of Enrollment Management, Warren Huesner. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Warren, as I mentioned, all over the world and social media, people have been talking about the fact that BCU has allegedly raised tuition by $10,000 in 1 year. So let me just ask you and get straight to the point. Has BCU raised tuition by $10,000?
Unequivocally not. Let me explain, I think, how this came about. We have different costs that are put out there on our websites and various sites that are outside of BCU. And they get into what's called direct cost, indirect costs, and what we call cost of attendance. It's also called a financial aid budget. And I think that's where the confusion came in. Let me go over exactly what our direct costs are. We have tuition for 12 to 18 credits at $6,720 per semester. That's $13,440 per year. We have our board charges at about $1,000. There may be a small increase in that in the short, coming. We have our room charges at $3,456 per semester. Again, $6,912 per year. And then we have our fees at $485 per semester, $970 per year. Those are the direct costs for attending BCU. And in total, that's $23,322. Now, in order for families to attend, they have to buy books. They may need supplies. They may need travel and cost and all those other things. So those are what we call indirect costs. For a family who may not want to be in the low-end housing and choose the higher rate housing, then again, you can incur more costs that way. But when we talk about the indirect cost, that all depends on the family. Again, if your son or daughter has an extravagant lifestyle, you may need to provide a little bit more for what they need. We have some standard costs that we have on our website that we estimate those indirect costs will be. And again, we talk about books being about $725 per semester. Personal expenses, somewhere about $1,650. And then transportation costs, not just if you're living on campus, you might need to go elsewhere, laundry, things of that nature, personal items, so forth and so on. So those total about $2,925. Now, when you put those, the direct and indirect costs, we're somewhere about $29,760. So when people looked on the website, and we did get an email from a parent who looked and said, hey, your cost is $30,000. No, you were looking at the cost of attendance with the estimated indirect cost, not the direct cost for the institution. Now, some people also correlate that to what we call the budget. This is what we submit to the federal government and say, this is the maximum in financial aid a family can receive. And that's basically based on what we anticipated those indirect costs being. So I think that's where things started to go left.
So if a student goes home to their parent and they say, I have an extra $10,000 in tuition that I have to pay this year, that statement would be incorrect.
Absolutely incorrect. And if they actually go to our website and search cost of attendance, they will have the details on what direct costs, estimated indirect costs, and what the total cost of attendance is as defined to the federal government.
So let's say you have a student named Tiffany, and Tiffany, again, lives an extravagant lifestyle, and she wants to live in the best condo that's beachfront, and she wants to have a nice car, and then she's arguing with her parents and saying, I need this extra $10,000. Help the parents understand, and possibly students, how can they cut cost?
Well, there's a number of ways that families can cut costs. One, again, is to not be so extravagant. Please understand that when you are in the higher end housing, when you are affording your child $500 a week allotment for spending costs and so forth, you can dig yourself into a huge financial hole. Quite often, parents take out loans to try and offset those costs, but again, you have to pay those back at one point or another. For me, I think the best way to go about cutting costs is, you have to be very aggressive in searching for scholarship dollars outside of BCU, within BCU, and anywhere you can find them, whether it's a church organization, whether it's a fraternal organization, your place of employment, military benefits, any which way that you can do that. You can also, if your family members are very much involved, you can have them share costs. So you can actually pull together and say, hey, why don't, you pay $500 here, you pay $200 here, you guys want to see little Tiffany go to school and graduate, right? Well, you're involved now. All right.
Okay, great. Now, let's say that you have a student. How much should a student have each week or be allotted each week for an allowance? What would your recommendation be?
Well, see, that depends again. I can't name it per se. As a student coming into school myself, my mom allotted me a great deal, more than actually she should have. I was one of those students that went a little crazy, and I took my mother's credit card, and there was an ATM machine right across the street from my dorm, and I went a little crazy. So I spent a whole lot of money. Needless to say, shortly thereafter, that credit card was gone. So again, you really have to gauge it based on your child, and also based on your income and what you can afford. Do not put more money out there than necessary or borrow more money than necessary.
Now, I imagine that you have some incoming students who are first-generation college students, and their parents might need help understanding the process of applying and getting financial aid. Are there any processes that you all have in place to assist these parents and walk the students through what they need to do to get through all 4 years?
Yes. Well, here's a couple of things that I want to talk about. For the parents who are already, your child's been accepted to BCU, we have a thing called the New Student Portal, New Student Tab in the Wildcat Web Portal. Access is granted by password, and it's in their student's acceptance letter. That covers 8 steps that they need to do for the enrollment process, from completing admissions, sending in the final transcripts as needed, to completing the FERPA application, housing information, health services information, financial aid, and payments as the closing out of the process. If they need to see what they need to do, they can have their child log on to the Wildcat Web and show them exactly. And what's great about our system in there is that you can actually print out a sheet that shows you what you've completed and what you haven't completed and what you need to do to complete each step. Now, second stage of that, once you've completed the financial aid application and you've been awarded, quite often parents still a little confused, right? They see Pell, they see terminology that they have no idea what they need to do with. So we have what we call enrollment days, and they will be starting in approximately 2 weeks on Fridays. We have 2 sessions on each Friday, a 9 a.m. and a 1 p.m. session, and we're inviting families to come in who've been awarded. What I will do and the staff here at BCU is we will go through that award letter in detail. We'll explain what a grant is, what money you don't have to pay back. We'll explain what the loans are and what the interest rates are on these federal loans. We'll explain how your scholarship money is being applied. And we will talk about how to fill the gap, looking for more resources. And then finally, if you need to do a payment plan, how to get through those payment plans.
So you heard it here first. If you are a parent or a student or know a parent or a student who need help getting walked through the financial aid process and how to fund their education, you can let them know that BCU has enrollment days. And Warren, can you give us those dates one more time?
Sure. Well, they will start as of next week, Friday, and that will be the first date is the 16th. We have the 30th, June 30th. We have July 14th and July 28th. In order to enroll or register for those days, you will have to have been an accepted student. Access again to the registration page will be granted through the New Student tab in the Wildcat Web Portal. You will be able to click the registration and select the time and the date, and then you will be notified by email some things that you need to bring to the event.
And in order to get to the portal, they can go to www.cookman.edu. Is that correct?
That is correct. At the top of the page, at the absolute top of the page, you will see it say Wildcat Web. Once you click that link, it will take you to the password and login. And then when you click there, it takes you directly into the portal.
So, since we're talking about money, Warren, are there any tips you would give someone who says, I want to attend BCU, but I don't have the money?
Well, one of the first things is an assumption to say you don't have the money. First thing we need to do is to make sure that you apply for financial aid. Get the application done, get it done in a timely fashion so that you can get an award letter. Then we can start talking about cost and affordability at that point. Sitting down with a financial aid person or someone at the institution can then, we can say, where are you meeting the cost and where you're not meeting the cost. Give you recommendations on other options that you can, take. Parent Plus loans are out there, and a lot of parents do take that option. Are you receiving external scholarships? And I think that's a huge thing that a lot of our families do not seek or engage in enough for me. I would really love to see that high schools push their students even more to seek scholarships in their junior year. So by the time they hit their junior years, they're really cruising into getting resources outside of the institution they're attending. And then once you put that all together, now we can talk about how we can manage what possibly could be a gap over a year. I like parents to look at things as a year, not a semester.
Okay, great. Now, what steps or what mistakes do students make when it comes to spending their money? Because there are some students that struggle with getting enough funding, and then there are students that get tons of funding and they spend it very poorly.
One of the things that I will say is when it comes to books and supplies for school, students quite often go to the first choice. And that's not exactly the most affordable choice. You need to open up your options, and the Department of Ed wants you to open up your options. Look online. Look at books that may be secondhand. Talk to your classmates or pay attention to who is in the class in front of you so that they may be able to, in some cases, give you the book, as long as it's the most updated and so forth and so on. I think when it comes to seeking scholarships, again, I'm going to go back to that. We're not doing enough of that, so it becomes a mistake. A huge mistake on behalf of our students, because a lot of funds out there they're just not seeking. And then again, expecting a budget of yourself that you cannot afford. I think that's a huge mistake on our family's behalf.
Cars, houses,
yes.
condos,
I want to
clothes.
take my car with me. I want to drive, and although I'm only going to go 2 blocks at a time, but guess what? You still have to pay for those expenses, and that's unnecessary.
I think what you said about scholarships was really great, because I know when I applied, my mom said apply for everything. They have a scholarship for everything. If you're 5'5", they have a scholarship for that.
Absolutely.
If you have brown shoulder-length hair, they have a scholarship for that. If you like sweet pickles, they have a scholarship for that. And so it's important to identify those resources. Do you know of any specific place that students can go to outside of BCU that would list an array of scholarship opportunities for students?
Well, let me first start with what we have on campus.
Please do.
We have our scholarship website, which is off of our financial aid page, and we have a number of external scholarships listed there. There are external organizations. They do change frequently. We recommend that students register with the United Negro College Fund scholarship site, NAACP, or anyone else. I was just at an NAACP function this weekend, and they gave scholarships to about 5 students, 3 of which are coming to BCU. Yay! So yes. I'm really happy from that perspective. But again, just a general search out there. There are a number of tools. One of the things I will say to look out for is no one's going to charge you $3,000 and then provide you with a $12,000 scholarship. It's just not going to happen. So be very wary of sites that are charging absorbent amount of money to promise you scholarship dollars, because there's nothing promised.
Now, once they arrive here for new student orientation, what steps are in place to help them get acclimated to college life and to help them understand the process once they arrive on campus? Well,
we have what we call Freshman First Day, which is, again, our orientation process. Once a student gets on campus, again, we hopefully should have all of our finances in line. They will be getting their registration for their classes and so forth and so on. They'll start to buy their books. It almost, we're trying to go back to the future, if you want to call it, because that's how I remember my process when I went to school. It came to orientation, you did a little scavenger hunt, you went to a social function, you got to meet your classmates. That's the type of thing we want to duplicate it and go back to. We want the students to know what services are here. We want them to know how they maneuver from class to class, how they maneuver in class, and then hit the pavement running that Monday when classes start. So that our freshman first week is going to have a lot of information that's going to be helpful to the student, and then getting them acclimated to the resources that are here.
That's wonderful. Now, if there is someone listening who needs personal help, who can they contact, or what office should they contact in terms of the financial aid application process?
Well, of course, that's our financial aid office. What I would extremely say to families is, at a peak time like this, it may be very difficult to reach any office when you're calling. Try the emails. It documents what's going on. And then take advantage of these enrollment days that we're telling you can come to. Once you've been basically packaged, and when I say packaged, I'm not talking about a family who is still in the process of doing financial aid, because that's not really what we're covering. But take advantage of these days. Come on in, sit with us. You're going to get one-on-one information. You're going to get detailed information, and we're going to try and make it as simplistic as possible. And I say as possible as the end result to that, because financially there's nothing simplistic about it, but we're going to try and demystify the process.
Is it too late for anyone to apply for financial aid?
No. If you're still in the process and you may be late, as some students are right now, you can still apply for financial aid, but we do have deadlines that we need to meet in order to keep things in line. So, for instance, by July 6th, we would like for you to have received your financial aid full application completed, meaning nothing's missing, so that we can package you, and then you can start talking about finances and gapping and so forth and so on. It takes about 7 to 14 days sometimes for a financial aid application to be processed and delivered to the institution from the federal government. So that's where our time lapse. So if you're very late and you're looking at August and we start in August, it may not be a good time to do that. You may want to wait for one of our sub-semesters or spring semester and keep your options open on that end.
Now tell me about the sub-semester. I've never heard that term before.
Well, we call them subterms. So basically we have a fall semester, a subterm semester, that's about an 8-week program, a spring semester, spring subterm. And these are, again, options for families who may be late in the program, and they say, well, I can't make it to the fall enrollment. I'm not going to be able to complete my financial aid. I'm not going to be able to complete my I needed to do that summer course, and it doesn't end until then, which means I can't give you my transcript. Well, we have a second option for you. We can defer your application to the subterm, get you to complete everything, get the financial aid in. It is a condensed program, it's shortened, but for those who can manage that, it provides another option for the students and the families.
Now, if a student is in debt in their sophomore or junior or even senior year, and they simply cannot pull out any more financial aid, or they've maxed out, what do you recommend that those students do? And this is just a general suggestion outside of BCU, but HBCUs and college students in general.
Well, this is, again, where I think students need to be, and families need to be aggressive in seeking funds. And I'm not just talking about when in need. Even when you're not in need, your goal for me should be to always reduce loans. If you have a loan on your record, your goal should be, by next year, I want to eliminate that loan by using outside resources, scholarships, or anything else that I can put in place. That becomes the mechanism for you to reduce your overall debt. So you're looking at managing it in a totally different way than looking at it when it just appears on the account as you're trying to carry a balance from one semester to the other.
So the goal should be to consistently be paying off their debt from freshman to sophomore
Absolutely.
year. Don't let it accrue.
Oh, no. And that's why I say if we all know you're going to, nowadays it's kind of impossible to go to school without getting a loan. All right. So let's not be afraid of that. You're going to take the loan out. You're going to understand your investment, and you're going to make that investment, work for you. But in the process, that doesn't mean that you can't offset those loans before they mature, in a sense, once you graduate and somebody starts calling you 6 months later that you have to pay. My thing is, why not get an additional $1,000 somewhere along the program and offset $1,000 in loans, so there's less money that you have to worry about over a payment plan on the loan.
Now, being in enrollment, what are some other major or frequently asked questions that you get asked by students that would be helpful for our audience to hear us talk about today?
I think, one of the questions that I get sometimes from transfer students, and we talked about high school graduation and how high school graduation plays in the financial aid process. And I think a lot of families don't understand that there's a federal regulation that says, if I cannot prove that you have graduated from high school, I cannot give you federal dollars.
Wow.
So we have to be able to prove those things. Another thing that families need to be aware of, and most high school students are not aware of, there are regulations that help you maintain your aid. Satisfactory academic progress is one of those, defined by the number of credits you're taking. Your current GPA must be a certain standard. The pace, meaning the credits that you've achieved over the number of credits that you've attempted, must be of a certain level. And then what we call maximum time frame, that you have to really have received your degree within 150% of your scheduled number of credits, which puts you about 180 credits. So again, if you don't maintain these items while you're in school, semester to semester, you will lose all of your federal aid. So your loans will go away, your Pell will go away, your state funds will go away until you meet the standards, and then we can reissue back. I'm giving you a little bit of a nutshell. It's quite a conversation in talking about that. And quite often families don't understand that their state aid, and for Florida residents, that's our FRAG and FSAG, those funds also have a GPA and credit criteria to maintain and receive the aid again. So those types of things are what families coming in really, and when I speak about them during orientations and different sessions, they go, "Oh, I didn't know that." Well, you need to start looking up those items.
Now, you hit on a very heavy topic, which is the support that students get once they get here from their family, because a lot of them are first-generation college students. So for anyone listening, whether it's from a financial perspective or a psychological perspective, because I'm sure you see students coming here during the first semester, during the orientation process, how can family members support their students in making that huge transition from being a high schooler to staying at home to being on their own and beginning their journey towards adulthood?
Definitely, I'm a first generation college student. So understanding that my mom had not attended a university or college or anything of that nature, I encourage all parents to be involved. You know, I hear the term now helicopter parent, and I love it. Right? I need someone there who is going to be engaged in the process. I need to know that you're interested in what's going on, but not just in the front end. I send out an email to our parents, and I encourage them on a monthly basis to be engaged. Ask questions. Know when midterms are going to be. Ask what your grades are, because as many of you may not know, our FERPA regulations, which are, again, regulations governing the rights of our students, says that I can't communicate with you unless your student gives me the right to communicate with you, and that means a parent as well. So you won't get grades sent home like the old school to you and, "Oh, look what my son did." No, you have to ask the question and get the rights to access. So I encourage everyone to be a helicopter parent. I want you to know, you go on the website and look at the registrar calendar and say, "Hey, when is midterm? When is it going to be for my child to have time off?" I need to know all of that, and I need to ask the questions. Don't just, and here's the trick. When they say, "Mom, Dad, it's okay, it's good." No, show it to me. Your grades can be posted online. You can see all of that. Your bill is online through the Wildcat web. So show me what the financial aid looks like. Show me what the grades look like. Don't tell me you got all A's when it was C's. And you can get all this information through the student portal, but we have to ask and be engaged.
Hashtag helicopter parent. I love that. It is okay to be a helicopter parent.
Absolutely.
From financial aid to breaks to grades and things like that. I like that. Now, tell me, what would your advice be to parents that are listening who have toddlers or young children? What can they do to start to prepare for supporting their children financially in terms of going to college and furthering their education?
Well, there are a lot of different options I think families can engage in, and it's a simple thing, plan ahead. Put a little bit aside, the most that you can. It doesn't mean that you have to ensure that you're going to have $1 million by the time your child goes to school, but having something aside to ensure that you're going to help cover a 4-year span. So however you choose to do that, that would be my best word of advice in doing that. And there are a lot of options out there for doing that. But what you seek, your best option is how you should go about doing that.
Second to last question. If let's say the parents get on the portal, students get on the portal, and they look at the breakdown of fees, is there anything in the, let's see, what's the word you used? The direct fees, is that correct? The direct fees that they can call and say, I don't want to pay for this. I don't need it.
No. Everything covered in the direct costs on the fees are items that must be paid. There are no options to it. They're charged to all of our students, and they cover a number of other things that are, student activity fees are included in there. Technology fees are included in there. And those are the types of fees that you really don't have options to paying, and really, again, leave the 45 as it is, and that stands.
So in closing, we see it at every institution. As students come back to campus, there are the long lines for financial aid. Students get quickly frustrated because things might have been confused, lines might have been crossed. Can you take a moment just to talk to students and parents about preparing for that time and how to best navigate it?
One, get information. Get what is accurate as it stands. So that means, again, sitting down with your child and looking at their financial aid award letter electronically or hard copy, whichever one it is, and understanding what's on that award letter. One of the things I did mention was what we call prior. It's a new thing under financial aid guidelines where you can use your prior year's taxes, so you don't have to wait. So for those families looking at 18, 19 already, by the time you hit the ground for school, you can do your FAFSA application. So by January, December, before you leave, we can give you an award letter for the upcoming year. So at this point, you have to be engaged. You have to ask the questions, send those emails in early, get those answers, so when you hit the pavement in front of us, is very little that you need to get from us.
Well, folks, you heard it here first. Preparation, research, and getting the appropriate information from the right source are key. BCU has, in fact, not raised tuition by $10,000. Thank you so much for tuning in to Hashtag Talk Tuesday, also known as the BCU Wildcat Newsfeed, where you get the real, raw, relevant, and uncut information about what's happening on the campus of Bethune-Cookman University. I am your host, Franshawn Reed Barnes, and you are listening to WELE 1380 The Cat. See you next week.